Hey guys, Jeremy here with Simple Life. Welcome back to the third video in the series of setting up the new workshop. What we're going to do in this one is build a couple of fixtures, a welding table, and the first project that I needed to get done was this here grinding room. This will be a dedicated grinding room. Originally it was a tool storage room, and as such it had some old, like vintage fluorescent light bulbs, and we had to change those out. I picked up some inexpensive LEDs. These ones had adjustable color temperature, which I really appreciated. I could kind of match whatever color looked the best to my eye. And really quite simple. Take these things out. Fluorescents, while they were fairly energy efficient, not nearly as much so as the new LEDs. And they're not as bright, and then the bulbs don't last long. They're just a pain in the petunia. So we've got to get rid of those suckers. And here I am just kind of laying it out roughly where they were before. I will need to fill in those holes or put a plate over top of them because there's a little bit of a hole exposed. And once we got those in, then we could continue with the rest of the work. Basically empty out this room, take off these shelves that had been on here for a long time.
Moths.
Flies. Ugh.
That's nasty.
Real nasty.
I think those brackets have been on here for 30 years. Anyways, somebody also decided to make some hooks by taking RDOC nails and cutting the heads off. So I'm gonna have to pull these out. A lot of echo in here. I'm gonna rip up all this cove base, rubber toe kick, fill in the holes, and slap some paint on her. Then we'll have a grinding room.
Ooh, grinding room.
I think that's a little mouse hole. Gotta fill that. I don't know if that's a mouse hole, but
I think
yeah,
it
it looks
is.
like a mouse hole.
Yeah, it's a mouse hole.
We're gonna fill that too. Get rid of this. This is a telephone line. What even is that? Anyways, a little bit more work. Got some serious cobwebs up in the corner there. Gotta get rid of those. Guess we'll paint the door too. And then we'll have a nice little grinding room. I'm excited about that.
Me too. Now, when I pulled off a lot of these hooks, it took a lot of paint with it, so I ended up filling in some holes. And then also, as we'd ripped up this this existing cove base or toe kick, kind of peeled up some of the paint, so we had to sand that down, put some mud filler in. It took a while, actually, to prepare the walls for some paint. And then I used this stuff. This stuff goes on pink, and then it dries clear, so you know when it's dried. Here's a little fast-forward footage of it disappearing. And then we sand everything down. I'm not going for, like, house quality here. I'm just going for grinding room quality. And then we paint, and I ended up putting on 2 coats of paint. This was, I bought a really high quality paint. I just figured that there's going to be a lot of abuse going on. I'd like to be able to wipe the walls down without, you know, diminishing the finish of the paint. So 1 gallon of paint was just enough to do this entire room. Once we had that done, and then I went ahead and put new toe kick or cove base on. And this is just like a rubber type of a coating thing. You put some cement on the back, and it's a little cheaper, I think, than baseboards. It goes up a lot quicker and easy to replace. And then it was time to bring in the grinders and workbench and just kind of start setting everything up. Now that old workbench was one that I had built previously on this channel, and it actually sat in my garage until I got my lathe, and it had been outside, so it's rusty. I'm actually just going to leave it like that. I don't care enough to paint it up, but I found some plywood or MDF, and I just figured I'd cut down the top and shelves, and this will be a really handy little place to store all the different grinding arms, different, grinding jigs, attachments, and so on and so forth. Now I also decided to install my portaband. You know what, I figured I can mount it here. If I don't like it in this room, I can always move it back. But I really like the idea of keeping anything that creates metal dust or shavings inside this room. So I think this will be all right. And I have actually used this several times since installing it, and it's really handy. I've got this room. If I just need to cut a couple pieces of metal, I can cut it. The dust stays on the floor. I can sweep it every now and then, but really it just leaves a nice area that I don't have to worry too much about tracking dust all over other parts of the shop. And that pretty much completes the grinding room. So here it is in all its glory. It's not the biggest room, and it actually got a lot smaller once I brought tools in. You can see we've got all of our tooling down there, different jigs, portaband being here. Temporarily, I've got my wood cutting bandsaw in here. I store my drum sander over there, and we've got the dust collection. And again, I've just got these hoses routed the same way I did in my other shop. So I've got one to the disc sander and then one to this grinder. I've actually stolen the connector piece there for a moment for a different project. And then my other grinder. So as you can see, it's not a massive space, but you don't need a lot of room. And I'm really happy with using this room as opposed to the bicycle room because I just feel like this is a good use of space. I'm gonna put some shelving up there still that will be for knife specific steel. Storing that, I've got place to store different abrasives, whatnot, and whatnot, stuff and such and things of this nature. And then we've got our belt storage, and overall, I'm pretty happy with this little room. Super nice to have this done. And you can see even anytime I have anything that's dirty, I bring it in here. I still don't have work stands for my drill presses, so I just kind of set up on this table. But all the mess stays on the floor. Generally, it doesn't track out there too bad. And I can just come in here, make a mess, turn the lights off, and close the door. So another project I wanted to get done was to build a decent working bench. This is not necessarily a welding bench as per se, as it's not going to have a metal top, but it's got a big heavy metal frame. This is, I think, 4-inch C-channel. There's a whole bunch of it laying around here, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to use it for making this. Really quite simple, not a lot to building a workbench. Square it up, cut the corners, weld this whole thing up. The one thing I haven't done yet is put a shelf underneath it, and I do plan to do that, and also do a little cross bracing, but for now, I've got it set up, and it's a nice working height. I put a piece of MDF on there. OSB, I always confuse those suckers. And so that's like 49 inches by 97 inches. And I figure a wood top will be great. I can do whatever I need to. It's kind of a sacrificial top. And, as I need to, I can just replace that top. In the picture here, you can see it's plywood. I actually swapped that out with MDF. So that was a nice project to have done. I want to thank Princess Auto for sponsoring this video. I can tell you what, it is so handy having a sponsor like Princess Auto when you're setting up a shop. They have so many great products for shop use, not necessarily knife making specific, while they do sell a lot of knife making materials, just general shop setup. For instance, this retractable power cord. I can mount this at a location that has an outlet, and this is 50 feet. You pull it out, and I think it's like every 3 feet, it has a little stop, a little click there, and it'll stay. So you can just pull it out wherever you need it, and when you're done, give it a yank, and it self-winds itself up. Works really good. I've been using this a lot, and I'm actually going to get a couple more of these and mount them in different places in my shop. Now, thinking about keeping everything mobile and moving around in this shop, this here is a cart I got from Princess Auto, and this one is going to be for my heat treat oven specifically, and the related things that go along with it, different accoutrements like the stainless steel foil. I'm going to try and figure some way to integrate my plate quenching device here onto this. I'll have to build a bracket or kind of beef it up a little bit. But these little carts are really handy. They save me a whole lot of time having to weld something up. This was the perfect size for my heat treat oven, and just assemble it and boom, you're done, you're ready to go. Now, these little carts are only rated for about 250 pounds, I think, so not a whole lot, but definitely good enough for my heat treat oven. They also have these heavy-duty plastic carts, and I picked up one of these, and this is going to be kind of like my mobile working station. Whether I'm doing stuff like the brakes on a car or, a batch of knives, this is going to be for a whole bunch of different things, and it's going to be pretty handy. I've been using this for several weeks now. Even when I'm doing stuff out in the barn, I can take different tools. I had to adjust the overhead door in the barn. I just throw a whole bunch of tools on there. Even the ladder, I can wheel it out there. And I just love these carts. I'm going to be picking up a couple more of these as well. But if you've never thought about these carts, the reason I never did this before was because I didn't have room in my garage. But I have plenty of room now, and having a cart like this set up has just been super, super handy. And I plan on even modifying it, adding a few different holders on the side here and there for specific tools that I'd like to live on this cart. And yeah, super, super stoked with these. And then the last other big project that I did was I brought in my metal lathe. Put my milling machine up on this bench just for now. It's not going to be its final location, but the lathe will stay here. I need to upgrade the lights in this area. As you can see, it's not super bright, but it's actually kind of dark. But when I was bringing my lathe in here from the barn, I wasn't paying enough attention, and I broke this wheel off. The lathe almost fell completely over. The front of the forklift kind of stopped it. So I'm gonna have to braze this back on. The way that it broke was actually kind of convenient. I should have no problems brazing that on. I'll probably take it off of there. Just one of those stupid mistakes. But I'm glad I got that in place. I did it all by myself, and moving a machine like that by yourself, it's so time consuming. I ended up using a bunch of steel shafting to kind of roll it down into position. And then in regards to the bicycle room, I've made a couple of tweaks. Originally I had 13 bicycles in here, and since then I've gotten rid of all the bikes that aren't mine, and those are just 5 of my 6 Surleys. And the main reason I'm doing this is that this shop needs to be treated like a shop, like my workplace. And when the kids are in and out all the time, grabbing like basketballs, bicycles, things to play outside, it's amazing how much of a distraction it can be. Even if I'm in the middle of filming something and they come in, it's like, whatever I was filming, I have to restart. So during work hours, this shop is kind of off limits. In the evenings, come in here, do whatever they want, but this is where I work. This is like my job. So for now, this is going to be my office. Obviously, I'm not going to be accessing my bicycles while I'm working, so they can stay in here. And then I'm always working on different bikes, so I kind of do that in here. But then also, this is where I'm like editing videos, doing the voiceover. I can do podcasts in here. I did get Wi-Fi set up, which is super exciting. And I've come to a certain conclusion about this shop build out. And that conclusion is this, is that in my mind, I was trying to get the perfect shop set up the first try. Now, the fact of the matter is I don't have access to the back of the shop for the time being because my parents have all their stuff stored in there. Once their house is done, that will leave, and that part will become a dedicated wood shop. So my wood bandsaw, one of my drill presses, all of my table saw, my chop saws, planer, drum sander, all that will be permanently set up there. But in the interim, I've got to use it in this 50 by 50 space. So I think I'm just gonna kind of leave it as it is. You know, I've got my grinding room, I've got a place to edit video, do computer work, and I've got this place. You can see there's just all kinds of junk all over here right now, but this is a multi-use area. And then I've also got all the workbenches over there for the dirt bikes and stuff like that. And I think now I'm just saying, okay, enough is enough. I've spent about 3 weeks setting this up, as well as other things in the yard, like moving stuff around the barn, finding a place to park my tractors, just all the stuff. You know, where are we going to keep all of our gardening tools, our weed whackers, our lawnmowers? We've got riding mowers. We've got blah, 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 all the things. And so I think it's just time to say, hey, let's just start using this space. Pretty much everything has been unboxed. I have access to almost all my tools. There's a few things that I'm just like, where on earth are these things? But I'm just gonna say whatever. We'll find them when we find them. We need to just start getting to work. And I'm super excited about that. If you guys have any questions about how I've set this up, you know, there's still a lot of things on the to-do list, like putting the dust collection in the room above the grinding room, but that's just gonna wait. I think I'm gonna hold off on more shop upgrades probably until next spring, once our Christmas rush is done, and once all that stuff is cleared out of the back, then we can set it up. You know, I can set up an automotive area there. There's like the car lift there, and I can decorate that out, get this kitted up like a really sweet man cave, but also a really functional shop. Now, having worked in here for several weeks, I've done a lot of things like modifying IKEA cabinetry. It is just unreal to have so much room. Processing like 4x8 sheet goods, like with all the room around it, like it's not an issue. We're modifying IKEA cabinetry, and I could have 2 different routers, a drill press, table saw, and a chop saw set up at the same time in this space, and it is an absolute dream. I am so stoked about having this. Nice thing is too, is it's like, I think it's like 32 degrees Celsius outside right now, and it is cool in the shop. I do my best, I keep that door closed, and with this big slab of concrete, it's like a big cooling block. It's almost, it feels like there's air conditioning in here, but there's not. And it's a fantastic workspace. I'm just absolutely loving it. I didn't think I would love having this much room as much as I do. So thank you to Princess Auto for sponsoring these videos, this series, and there's gonna be a lot more things I'm gonna be picking up from them. You know, if you're looking for stuff for your shop, check out Princess Auto. Obviously, if you're Canadian, it's gonna be super advantageous to you, but man, some of the stuff they have is just fantastic. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for your great suggestions, your feedback, You know, the grinding room was like a comment that came in over and over and over again, and it is such a fantastic idea. The bicycle room, in my opinion, would have been too big, and it would have been nice to have some natural light in there, but I think that's just the perfect size. You know, I can keep the knives that I'm working on, I can cut them out in there, grind them. You know, part of the process of starting knife making is you cut the blanks out from stock removal anyways, you cut the blanks and you grind them to shape. And then you put your bevels on, and all that can be done in that room. And I'm also most likely gonna put a drill press in there so I can drill the holes. And so basically it's like, boom, you know, take your raw material in there and you come out of there ready for heat treat. Glue ups will not be happening in there because I don't want grinding dust, you know, when I'm finishing stuff up, but I've got lots of other workspaces I can set up for that stuff. But, you know, a shop is never ever done. And that's kind of what I realized. I'm just accepting the fact that I'm gonna be adding and tweaking, and this is an ongoing project. Really, it is, but it's set up to the point where it's usable and it's quite efficient at the moment, and I'm excited to be cranking stuff out, more knives, welding projects, all kinds of fun stuff coming up in the near future. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Cheers.